Xavier here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over more of my 4K collection. This is part two of the multi-movie collection, gap of the collection here. We're almost done. Just one more video to go after this one. And then, of course, the possible streams and the final tally of the collection. If you can't tell, I shaved again, and over here, is the posters of Conan the Conan movies. If you want to know how I got those, you have to wait until the next video. I'll say that. With that said, let's get on with it. So starting off today, I must say I really like those posters. Bit hard to hang up though. We got the Bad Boys collection. There's going to be another Bad Boys movie, so this is not a complete collection. It's the first three. Coming out of the third film when it released back in 2020. And I must say, I think all these movies are very solid. They're all about the same, good. Not I would say these are great movies, but definitely very fun, entertaining movies. I think they all have their strengths and weaknesses that you can say they're all the same amount of good. And personally, it's like it is a pick. It is you. In terms of what is my favorite, it's a bit hard because like I said, each has their pros and cons. Depending on humor, tone, action, villain, characters, etc. They all have their it's generally speaking, these movies can fit for any type of action flavor that you want, and you could say it's actually just a generally good franchise because it has a lot of range and in terms of what you can enjoy. But yeah, not much to say about these ones. Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, they're just fantastic. Glad to see they're doing another film. I don't know when they're going to finish them. I thought the third film was going to be the last one, but you'll see. I also see if the fourth film is any good. But yeah. Next up, we got a somewhat complete collection. It's just in a that sort of type of Sony packaging right here. And that is Men in Black, the 4-movie collection. First movie is a classic. That one they recently released standalone as a steelbook with proper HDR and stuff. I didn't pick it up though because it's kind of pointless getting the first one alone. The second movie, not everyone likes it. It's entertaining, but is definitely more flawed than the first one. You didn't have the third film, which is a very good end to that trilogy. Definitely has a bit of weak flaws, but it's still a very good movie. And then you have where is it here? If I can pop it up, yeah, Man in Black International. It's not good. It's not horrible in terms of it's well done with the filmmaking and the effects and the action and stuff. I just don't think Chris Hemsworth and Emma Thompson, not Emma Thompson, Tessa Thompson. Emma Thompson is in that movie as well, but Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth, they're not a good duo. They just the filmmakers just saw, they were very good in Thor Ragnarok as the comedic duo. Why don't we just use them again? Which is that's kind of defeats that whole point of the charm of the Men in Black films, where the whole point was that you had Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. These are the polar opposites of actors in terms of what type of films they do and what their prestige is. So, and we never saw them before on screen until Men in Black, and that's what made it work so well. When you see Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, you can debate that they are sort of different actors and actresses in terms of their reputation and prestige and what type of movies they do, for the most part. But since we already saw them together, it's not whoa, their chemistry is really good. It's no, we know their chemistry is good, but it's not even that good in this movie because it just feels so forced because we already know that, we saw their comedic shtick in 4-3. We don't need to see it for Men in Black. I hope they do another one in the future, but as of now, International is the last one that we had back in 2019, and I hope there's something else that washes the bad taste of that one. Next up, we have the Spider-Man Trilogy. There's not much to say about this. This is the classic Sam Raimi films all together in 4K. I don't know if they've released them standalone yet, but I don't think you should because honestly, they're all great. Obviously, the first two are fantastic. The third one has a lot of hate, but I also think it's pretty good. I think the third one gets a bit like hated upon, and it definitely has issues. But I also would say that it's not the typical Sony wanted Venom and it's like all that. Sam Raimi definitely got a bit too high on his high horse for some aspects, but like in general, these are great movies. There's really not much to say. I think everyone knows what to think about the Spider-Man trilogy. Up next is a very unique half collection, you can say, and that is the X-Men free film collection, comprised of the first three X-Men films. I love these films. The first film is a little bit dated in terms of, you know, it's been a long way since the modern superhero film, but I still think it's a very good film. X2 is great. It's super rewatchable. It's barely dated. Everything holds up, like with the story and the effects and the action and the characters. And then Last Stand, a lot of people like to hate on that. It's a very messy film. It's a definitely entertaining for sure. And yeah, like I really think like these, I love these movies. I love the X-Men films in general. Not much really to go into detail. I think everyone's thoughts are generally the same. Next up, we have another one of these, and that is the X-Men Beginnings trilogy, which is First Class, Days of Future Past, and what was it? Apocalypse. Yeah, like I like that they kind of did the X-Men films with these two collector's packs, so you don't have to like get all six movies and put them individually. Kind of wish they did a Wolverine trilogy of this. In terms of what I think about these films, First Class, I'm not the biggest fan of. As much as a lot of people love that movie, I'm not a big fan of Matthew Vaughn in general. I don't really like some of the story decisions he did. Like, the guy who can't be killed, and he's black, and he killed him anyway. The love triangle between Mystique and the Beast and Magneto. It's just like, there was a lot of things that I just didn't like in that movie. Days of Future Past is fantastic. This only contains the theatrical cut. I do have the Road cut digitally though. Like I remember because I used to own the Road cut on Blu-ray, but once I upgraded to 4K, I didn't need it anymore. And then there's Apocalypse, which I think gets really overhated. Like I know why people don't like it. It's definitely a bit of a nosedive from Days of Future Past, but I still think it's a really solid movie. Like it's like I would watch that. Like I don't really understand like the whole thing of why people really hate Apocalypse that much in terms of like a movie. Like could it have been a much better execution? I can say maybe. And yeah, it definitely was a bit overstuffed, but I do think it was like a generally like good movie. Like I think I could rewatch it, but without each. I think the only thing they needed to change really was the whole Wolverine stuff in the middle of the movie. The Alkali Lake sequence is so pointless. Yes, it's cool seeing Wolverine, but it was such a big detour. Like there was no point of taking like 20, almost half an hour of the movie for this big detour. But I guess the reason why they did it was because if they just immediately went to Apocalypse, the movie would be much shorter. So there's that. All right. Next up, we have the two movie collection stuff. Some of it is, there's synergy. Some of it's a bit like, not as much, but you'll see. First off, we have the 48 Hours 2 movie collection. I mean, it's just the two 48-hour movies together. There's no third movie, so it works. As for what I think about these movies, they're okay. The original 48 Hours was a very, how do you say, it was a very unique film at the time for like the buddy cop film. It also launched Eddie Murphy into stardom. Like it was his first big movie. And then the second movie is a bit like on the more uneven side because it took like 10 years to make. Some of the story decisions were a bit weird. Some of the gags were repeated and not as fresh. The what was it like? The whole tension between him and Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte is repeated because of some artificial reason. It's definitely like a weaker sequel, but I think it's still like watchable. It's still like a decent film by itself. It's just that for a sequel to 48 Hours and how it took 10 years to make and that was the product that they got, it was like that's a bit disappointing. It's kind of like Incredibles to Incredibles 2. Like Incredibles 2 isn't a bad movie. It's just that it's not a good sequel after such a long awaited, deal. So there's that. Next one is a very unique one, and that is The Death and Return of Superman on 4K. Which, if you don't know, it is the two animated films from the DC animated universe, which is Death of Superman and Reign of Superman, all in one movie. It's not. It's all in one disc. It runs almost 3 hours long. There's no way to watch them separately. I mean, unless you just pause the movie. There you go. And it's seamless. So like when the first movie ends, it doesn't just go into credits and then the movie plays. It just acts as if it was a big longer movie. And on top of that, so you just have like the big collection on 4K and Blu-ray, but also you got a bonus movie, and that is Superman Doomsday, which if you don't know is the 2007 animated movie, which was the initial Doomsday movie. Like because this is like the newest one. The original was a weirder adaptation in terms of it didn't do the full story and some narrative decisions were made, but it was still interesting. But yeah, so basically it is 3 movies in one technically, because it got 2 movies squished into this one disc here for The Death and Return of Superman. And Superman Doomsday is just an older film that they put on 4K. The 4K qualities for both are good. They're 2D animated, not Disney quality, but they're still it's still the best way to watch these movies. So yeah, Death and Return of Superman. I'm not sure if you can find this one easily. I found it luckily, back in Ottawa, wrapped in everything. So I got the digital codes, and actually I don't think I got a digital code for this. Never mind. But regardless, though, this is a very good one. Next up is the Equalizer 2 movie pack. So Equalizer 1 and 2. I have the third film already standalone. I could have waited a few years for all together, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Equalizer 1. Amazing movie, I love it. And the second movie, I actually do like it about the same, maybe a little bit more. I know some people aren't the biggest fan of the second movie because the pacing is a bit off and it's not as cool action and stuff. But I think it's still a pretty good follow up. Denzel cannot do any wrong. I would say, like I said before, the third film might be the weakest, but it's not a bad movie. It's just takes a different direction. But yeah, these movies are great. They look great. I mean, they're Sony films, so yeah, not much to say about those ones. All right, next up, the MCU Spider-Man films 2 movie collection. So Homecoming and Far From Home. I got this, for a deal, so it was cheaper than it really is. For some reason, it only comes with, I believe, the digital copy for Far From Home. I didn't get a Homecoming digital copy for some reason. I mean, it's not like I really love these movies anyway, but fair enough. And yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of these movies. Homecoming is not my personal favorite. It's just, I understand why people loved it when it came out. It was a big deal, because MCU, Spider-Man, try to go from the more smaller scale. But I think that's kind of my issue. I wasn't a big fan of the humor. The Vulture was cool as a villain, but I also think that the action was a bit lackluster. Some people may argue about it's meant to be a smaller scale, but not the best action. And I don't like John Watts saying, "Whoa, it's based on John Hughes movies," but it's yeah, but John Hughes actually had a lot of he had more filmmaking mojo in terms of what he was trying to go for in his movies. And more dramatic stuff, by the way, in his movies than this movie. So I never was a fan of Homecoming. Far From Home, at first I really liked it, but then when I watched it, I was like, yeah, this is way better than Homecoming. And then I watched it again and realized the story is not good. So I would say this is actually kind of worse than Homecoming. It's more entertaining in terms of I love the action more. The whole European backdrop is great to see. Different than New York. But I'm not a fan of the whole Edith glasses. It's so dumb. The humor got really annoying. Homecoming, I think the humor was a bit more balanced. I wasn't laughing a lot, but I think the humor worked. This one, it's it tried doubling down on the humor of the kids and everything, and it was just kind of annoying. So it's in general, Um, I'm not the biggest fan of these movies. I really like No Way Home though. Like No Way Home is definitely like that is what I was looking for the MCU Spider-Man stuff. But for these movies, yeah, not much. I still would watch them from time to time because they're not unwatchable. They're still decent to watch. They're just not as good as people really make them out to be. Almost done. So we have this is a weird one because so you have the original War of the Worlds and When Worlds Collide. So they were produced, same company and everything. Classic 50s sci-fi about the destruction of the world in one way or another. The War of the Worlds is on 4K. It is a great looking 4K. I love it. You can get it individually, by the way, for the 4K. So I would not recommend getting this. I got this because this was initially the only way to get it on 4K, which I always hate. I always hate when they do. Yeah, the only way you can get a 4K of this movie is you get a pack instead of just waiting a few years to get solo. But regardless, so yeah, World of Worlds. I love the classic 50s one. I actually kind of prefer it more than the Spielberg one. I know some people really love the Spielberg one, but I prefer the original. I just love that classic spaceships and how the effects were so like groundbreaking at the time, and that 50s charm. Then you have When Worlds Collide. If you don't know about this movie, um, think about the movie Don't Look Up, but set in the 50s. It's basically about, I wouldn't say a meteorite, but a big planet about to collide with Earth, and it's like basically the end of the world, and it's all about the procedures of like the scientists and all these people trying to find a way off Earth before Earth gets blown up, and you have disasters and all this stuff, and it's a okay movie. I would say this: it was a I bet it was it was definitely a unique film when I first watched it. In terms of like, seeing something like Don't Look Up or 2012, and seeing the similarities and how this movie really inspired it. No, with When Worlds Collide, but man, I really hate the romance stuff. Like it's so stupid. It's like you have the main character, but and then the love interest is with this other guy, and the other guy is not even a bad guy. He's like a very good guy, and he's like, yeah, no, go on, you can date this other guy. It's really stupid. And it's like you have this guy who's like the bad guy because he's the rich guy who's financing everything. He just says, I want to be on the ship though. It's just like, I mean, that's not a big conflict though. So like there's a lot of interesting scenes. It's just that I feel that like A, I'm not a big fan of romance, and B, I don't really like sort of these weird depressing movies about the end of the world. It does end on a lighter hope, like a hope at the end of the tunnel where they do land on another planet and stuff. But it's not like wow, I want to sit through an entire movie for that. Still, it's a very unique film for its time, and that's why like I would say to still check it out in terms of like if you really really love Don't Look Up or 2012 or those type of world-ending disaster movies. It's a good one to check out. But yeah, it's only on Blu-ray though. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why they're like, okay, let's give War of the Worlds 4K. I guess it makes sense. Bigger movie, more popular movie. Then When Worlds Collide, which I don't think a lot of people know about. They're like, yeah, no, we're not gonna give it 4K for this one. Even though from what I've heard, it won like best effects as well when it came out. But I don't know. All right, and the last movie for today. This is gonna be a shorter video, and that is the Jordan Peele double feature, Get Out and Us. He didn't do one for Nope. I'm not sure why, but hey, it is what it is. Get Out, very good movie. I think it's a bit overhyped though. I do think some things, are a bit too in your face. Like with the whole, the family and everything, like they were trying to be like so awkward on purpose, which I don't get why. I understand it's for the message of the movie, but it's like plot wise, it doesn't make sense why they were like, no, we're gonna creep this guy out and be really racist to him, even though we kind of need him for the whole experiments and stuff. Whatever. And you have Us, which a lot of people don't like because the story doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, okay, I get that the story, you have to take a logic gap with the whole like other world and the people and the clones and stuff for sure. However, I do think the message is way better than in Get Out. Get Out, is interesting. The whole like themes of races. This is not about the themes of race. It's more just social class in general, and that's very interesting. I really like it. And it's Jordan Peele. Great direction, great music, great camera work, great performances. shocking moments. They're great movies. Like there's no like I don't have Nope, as if you can tell from previous videos. I'm not like Nope was okay. I wasn't a big fan of that one. Also, I can't find it cheap. And yeah, anyway. And that's gonna be it for today. Pipe is now making noise. And besides, we covered all the movies for today. The last video will be about 4K steelbooks and the films on the top shelf, right there. So thanks for watching, and yeah, enjoy your night, enjoy your day. It doesn't really matter. But I just can't wait to finish this series. Like it's been a while. It's been a long. It's been in the making. So, I mean, for these past few months. Enough rambling. Have a good night.